right. Hello, everybody. My name is Finn,
And my name is Monica.
and this is the first ever episode of Homeschool Hell. We're thinking that that's a hard hitter
Yep.
of a name. I think we're gonna go with that. So, uh, basically, the premise of this show is we are two former homeschool students, students in quotes.
Yeah.
We are two former homeschoolers, um, and we want to just sit down together with a rough topic to discuss and kind of go from there. So, for example, this week we're just going to kind of give our backstories in homeschooling, who we are, why we're doing this show, how we met, that kind of thing. And then in future episodes, we're going to talk about types of homeschooling and unschooling and the different reasons why homeschool parents are driven to do this to their children. And also the different breeds and genres of homeschoolers that are out there. That's one of my favorite topics. Just talking about the types that I've run into in my day. Other topics would be socializing and
Or the lack thereof.
or the lack thereof, how that went for us growing up. The role of religion and politics in homeschooling, co-ops and extracurricular activities, and homeschool parents. And also, I very much want to talk about the effect that homeschooling had on our self-confidence and self-reliance. So I'm looking forward to that episode in the future.
Yes.
I'm sure that these are all things that we'll be talking about in every episode because they're all so entangled with each other. But we do want to try and dedicate separate episodes to these topics.
Also, could I just bump in and say I think it's like an important distinction for us because we were homeschooled like K through 12.
Yes.
And our experience I feel like is very different than maybe someone who was homeschooled for just like a year or two.
Absolutely.
Like, this is like level of cult like kind of
Yes.
ingrained.
Yes. So very important context for our introduction today. Monica and I were both homeschooled kindergarten through 12th grade. So for anybody who might be listening that is not from the US, that is the very first, youngest point that you can enter school through the end of high school before you would go to college or university. Just because I know that grading systems are different, like the UK, etc.
Right.
Yeah, very important context there. So, you wanted me to go first kind of with my backstory. So, I was homeschooled K through 12, and I distinctly remember the discussion that my parents were having one day about, I think that we're going to homeschool her. And I went by her at that point. I was 5. Hi, they, he now. But I distinctly remember the day where they were discussing ordering these curriculums offline that it was kindergarten through, I believe, 8th grade was what this curriculum company created. And every year they would send a giant box, and the box would be filled with everything that you needed for that curriculum, and it was laid out for you.
Do you want to tell us the name of this company?
Calvert.
Ah.
Did you use Calvert?
No, I used another good one.
Okay. I'm interested to hear which one of yours was. So Calvert, oh boy, good old Calvert. My life was ruled by Calvert, grades K through 8, and then after that, they created that with the expectation that you would be going to public high school after that point, because for a lot of the homeschoolers that I grew up with, they homeschooled their kids from K through 8, and then they would send their kids to public high school.
Mm.
I had a bunch of friends that, well, I didn't have a bunch of friends ever, but I knew of several other children that had this experience that were sent to high school. And so I kind of always thought that's probably how it's going to be for me. I'll probably be sent to high school. No, 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 no.
Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, sorry. I continued to be homeschooled through high school graduation. And how was this done, you might ask, when there was no curriculum and no standard to be met with, like, workbooks, etc. Well, my mother created the curriculums, in air quotes, curriculums.
Boy.
I would basically choose what subjects I wanted to study that year, which one, on the surface, one might say, oh, that's interesting. That's good that you get to pursue your interests. Anybody who's in public school would just have to study what they're given. Well, I would argue that this does not have any merit, because there's no way for you to become a well-rounded individual if you are not given the expectation of learning and studying things that are outside of your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So if I say, I'm already interested in this genre of art history, I want to study this, or whatever else, I'm this type of literature, I would say, that's cool that at the time that you would get to study that kind of thing, but in the long term, you're not being a well-rounded student.
No.
You're not,
Right.
because a big part of school is being exposed to things that, or as it should be, school is being exposed to things that you're not already privy to.
Yeah, because I wouldn't want to choose to study math. So if that was my option, I would be in trouble.
Right. And I didn't have a curriculum that was bought offline. My mom was making it, but we still did have the standard of the school district that we were in, so it was required for us to have a certain math requirement met, a certain history or literature requirement met, thankfully. However, the thing is, I now realize that I, either because of the way that I was taught, or I had this all along, but I believe that I have some kind of math-related disability, like some kind of numbers-related learning disability, because I've found that it doesn't matter how hard I work at learning math, I don't improve, and it doesn't pay off. And that's something that, could have been detected if I'd gone to public school. I could have been given the appropriate attention. So all that is to say, I up until I graduated high school, I was doing, the highest I ever got was Algebra 1.
Oh, wow.
Which I now understand is not normal.
Okay.
Yeah. And I say that the highest I ever got was Algebra 1, but I didn't actually earn that, because, see, we'll get into this. I'd like to do a specific episode on the subject of cutting corners.
Oh boy. Fudging the grades.
Yeah, because let's just say, whenever you leave a child to their own devices, they're already discouraged, feeling terrible about themselves.
Oh yeah.
Being told that they're stupid and useless every day. They don't understand the material, and they don't know how to catch up. And you're just left to your own devices to deal with all of these factors. You're going to be cutting corners.
Oh yeah.
And I was left unsupervised with my answer keys my entire life, K through 12.
Which, if you think about it, K? First grade? Wow, that's...
Yeah. So, I was left unsupervised from 5th grade onward,
Dear.
because my mother officially threw her hands up and gave up teaching me around 4th grade and was like, I can't do this, you're too impossible. And so at that point, she was no longer sitting at the kitchen table with me every day. It was just me by myself.
Which I think is wild, because like our parents chose to homeschool us, and when it became difficult, instead of getting us the help we need in the school system, they just did this.
Yeah, because they thought that for some reason, leaving us to our own devices was somehow preferable over an actual education
Wow.
in a structured setting.
Even when we're saying it like this, it's just, I can't understand it.
I don't know. If you come to the very true realization while you're homeschooling your child, I am not trained enough or equipped for this.
Mm-hmm.
I am not equipped to be a teacher of all subjects. If you come to that realization, put your kid in an actual education system.
Literally.
Don't just throw your hands up and say, well, I'm not going to teach you anymore, so here's your books, motherfucker, figure it out.
Yeah.
You know? No.
Which again is freaking wild, because we're literally children. And like, now that we're at this age, I feel like looking back, it's just like, dude, I would never leave an 8-year-old alone to teach themselves something. Like,
Yeah.
what?
And I have had people in my life tell me, you should be proud that you've made it as far as you have whenever you were in a situation like that, where you were left to your own devices, you taught yourself. You should... It's a miracle that things have not been worse for you.
Fair
And
enough.
that's true, but I don't like to think of it that way, necessarily. It can be helpful to me at times, whenever...
Mm-hmm.
my past is really getting to me.
Mm-hmm.
But so that can be a useful tool, but how I usually think of it is, well, it never should have been that way in the first place.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it makes me angry in this way that's like, I refuse to accept that it's like that for anybody currently.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me really want to do something about it.
Yeah.
But I'll touch on this a little bit more later. But that whole topic. But yeah. So my experience with homeschooling was, all the way up until college, and it informed and shaped every aspect of my life, of every aspect of who I came to be,
Mm-hmm.
who I was. To this day, it affects me to this day.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
every day of my life.
Oh yeah.
So I had a more structured thing going on whenever we first started, because my mother was like, I'm going to be hands-on, I'm going to teach you, I'm going to order these curriculums, and as it just went on, it got lazier and lazier and lazier, and I was left more and more and more to my devices. I was abandoned more and more. And I look back on it now, and I realize, at the time I was being told, this is happening because you're too difficult.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
This is happening because you're too difficult to teach. I can't handle you. You did this to yourself.
You're the problem.
Yes. And I beat myself up about that for years, up until I was almost 18. I was like, if I had just been a better child,
Mm-hmm.
I would have had an easier time of it. I would have had a better life. I would have been a better student. I would have been more educated at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm 24 now, and I'm looking back on it, and I realize, no, I never should have been put in that position where I was made to feel at 8 years old, or however old, because, I was a child the entire time. I, as a child, should have never been made to feel that that was my responsibility.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't being difficult. I was a child who behaves like a child.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever we get into talking about like homeschool parents, we'll get into this more, but I found this pattern amongst my parents and my friends' parents, where they expect you to have popped out of the womb a fully formed, functioning person.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And if you ever show that you, as a child, that you were anything less, it was over for you, bitch. Like,
yeah.
like, I saw this comic on Facebook recently. I think you reposted it. It was like...
Yes!
Yes, it was... Hang on.
Wait, I can pull it up.
Okay, pull it up. Because it words it so perfectly. All right. So there's these stick men, and it says, "Parent, how do I do blank action? Well, when I was your age, I had to learn how to do action without any help." And then the kid says, "I remain untaught."
Yeah.
And there we go.
I think that sums up our childhood really well.
Yes. And I think on the Homeschool Recovery Reddit, that is the top voted post of all time. It's got like 2,000 or 3,000 upvotes.
Dear Lord, yep.
Because it's just so spot on. Like, I saw you reposted that, and I was like, oh, I remain untaught. Like, oh my god.
And it's crazy, because I feel like we've had this conversation before, like, even now, you're 24, I'm 26, and we're still just, like, learning things that I feel like are common fucking knowledge.
Yes, I fully believe that I did all of my growing up start, like, from the age of 18 until now.
Yeah.
So, let's see. I gotta count on my fingers how many years this is, because I didn't have a proper education. See, this is an example of how it plays into everyday life. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. That's 7 years in which I've done all of my growing up.
Dear God.
And I very much believe that. Like, I look back on how I dealt with certain situations and conflicts and things whenever I was 18, and I was like, compared to my peers who were 18 at the time, and good Lord, I did so much growing up in such a short amount of time. Because, you know, I'm sure this is true of anybody, but I look back on it now, and I was behaving very much like a 12 or 13-year-old would in those situations, and not navigating them with any form of maturity.
Yep.
And I very much feel that I'm a completely different person than I was 7 years ago, in how I handle most things.
Oh, same.
And I'm proud to say that. Like, I've put in a lot of work over those 7 years to grow, to actually do the growing up that I was never given the chance to do as a child.
Yeah.
But yeah, another important aspect to mention for my experience in homeschooling was I did not have the religious aspect in my homeschooling experience. So that is actually very kind of a novelty thing in homeschool spaces. That's very abnormal. It's not really heard of. Now, I did have a friend or two who was homeschooled just for the hell of it. Actually, no, I had one other friend growing up that was homeschooled just because, and it wasn't because of any religious aspect. But for the most part, I was the only one that I knew that didn't have religion as a very big, role in their life. Or I didn't have religion as any kind of role in my life, not even a little bit. Like, like, some families are like, oh yeah, we're Catholic with a small c. We go to mass on Christmas and Easter and no other days. No, our family was completely void of religion. So we didn't have that aspect driving, like, the reasoning behind our homeschooling. So you and I were talking about this yesterday, but that makes it that much more difficult for me to come to terms with and figure out why.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, not to paint people who've dealt with religious trauma as having it easier in any kind of way, because that's a whole other aspect of trauma that I don't have any experience in. But I will say that those who were homeschooled because of Christianity, etc., they do at least have that cause to point to.
Yeah.
And be like, this is why my parents did this to me. This is why we had these rules in place because of this. Well, I didn't have that. I had all of the same sheltering and all the same sheltering and all the same control going on over my life without the cause. It was all the symptoms without the cause.
Which is, wow.
For the social aspect growing up for me, I was put into Girl Scouts because I begged whenever I was 6, and I was in Girl Scouts from the time I was 6 until I graduated.
Damn.
And whenever I first asked to be put in Girl Scouts, my mother threw a screaming fit and screamed at my father, well, you can put her in Scouts, but don't expect me to have anything to fucking do with it. I'm not going to any meetings. Don't expect me to do anything for this. That's all on you. And so my dad proceeded to be the one to take me to all my meetings and do help me sell the cookies and do all of it, because my mother refused to have anything to do with anything that had to do with my social life or any kind of activities like that. Which then was a pattern that emerged for all of my social experiences growing up. My mother, was extremely detached and completely withdrawn from having any investment in that. Like, in middle school, I was in soccer with you. We were on the same soccer team for like a season. I was on the team for a season. I wasn't allowed to go to any games.
No.
I only went to practices.
That's right.
Because my mom was like, "You'll just fuck it up. You don't know how to play the sport. You'll fuck it up. There's no reason for you to go." So, I was on a homeschoolers soccer team and it was the freak show that you think it was.
We should probably do an episode on that.
We should. Yes.
Because, good lord.
Episode upcoming about the fucking homeschool soccer team in our hometown.
Because it was all ages. You gotta understand.
All
we had
ages.
17-year-old boys shoulder to shoulder with girls who were like 8.
Yes.
Was it a clusterfuck? Yes.
And weren't they like divided up into age groups?
Yes, we had we were the canines, so the shepherds were the big ones, and then we had the fucking spaniels.
I was the spaniels.
And then the very smallest were the terriers. Dear God, I feel. Which, can we also just say, maybe because people might not understand, but Finn's dad coming to events was like a big thing, because most of these parents who came to these events, like for homeschoolers, were the moms. So it's very gendered. So the fact that your dad was there, I felt like, well, at least for me as a kid, I was just always like, wow, Finn's dad can come to like, that's so cool. Like, because my dad could come when he could, but, you know, he's working most of the time. My mom would stay at home. So it was like, for me, it was like to see your dad. I was just like, dang, that's so cool. And I don't
see, that's really interesting to hear, because you've never told me that.
I don't think I have. But
no.
Yeah, I was just like, I thought for some reason your mom must be like really sick and like, dang, your dad is a cool dad. Like, he's involved. Like, oh yeah. And like, not like my dad wasn't involved. Like, he cared and he was there when he could. But like, your dad was always there.
See, that's interesting. I've never heard that from like a friend's perspective who was there, because the reason that it was my dad that came to everything was because my mom flat out refused. She was like, I won't have anything to do with those other crazy homeschool mothers.
Dear God. Well,
oh, yeah, those homeschool mothers that she was apparently nothing like, but okay.
Which is really wild, because my mom really looked up to your mom for some reason. I don't know.
My mom was very good at projecting an image to outsiders.
She was good at it. My mom looked that right up.
Yes. You know, classic raised by narcissists type deal. People like her are, you know, covert narcissists like her are very good at projecting an image of who they want other people to believe them to be to outsiders. And then whenever they're alone with their family, behind closed doors, they're monsters.
Oh, yeah. My mom was the same. You know, it's terrifying. They're probably both projecting an image to each other, and I just think that's so funny. Like, it wasn't even a genuine interaction. They're just both, which is so fucking weird. Anyway.
Exactly. They're just like, projecting holograms at each other.
And the holograms are friends. It's so weird. It's so weird. Like, if you sit and think about it, you're like, what the actual fuck?
Oh my god. Just sitting there being fake with each other for an hour.
Yes.
Like, good
what
lord.
The hell? Which, I'm sorry. I feel like I just have to bring this up. Because, like, it's a tangent, but it kind of goes to, like, being yourself or whatever. I just remember I had a birthday party. And I invited lots of my homeschool friends.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have many of them, but there was enough that it was you there. Then we had Kira. Her dad identified as an atheist, but mom was a Catholic. And then, like, I don't know, was it Taylor? Was there? I don't know. They were like the other girl. Like, and like maybe like a Christian person. So we had like a bit of diversity here. And oh no, it was actually, she wasn't a homeschooler. It was one of my mom's friends, one of her daughters from growing up. But they're super Christian. Like,
okay.
But I just remember.
So the stamp of approval was on that one.
Oh yeah. I just remember there was, like, I had a birthday party, and afterwards my parents were like, that's it. You can't have any more birthday parties where you bring that many, like, diverse friends over, kind of, like, from...
Was it the roller skating party?
I think so, because I just remember there was some kind of discussion that happened where super Christian mom, and I think your dad might have had a differing political agreement, like... sides something, and I don't exactly remember what it was. I just know that it left with people feeling like their feathers a little ruffled. And like we kids were like, we had no idea what was going on, because like in my mind, like I wanted to be friends with everyone, but like I just remember like afterwards my parents like were just like embarrassed or something, and they're like, oh, and it wasn't like they were mad at anyone, but they were just like, well, that's awkward, we're not doing that again.
See, that's interesting you bring that up, because I think that my dad talked to me about this semi-recently, where he mentioned that whenever he took me to your birthday party that one year, I think you were turning 13.
Yes. That sounds right.
And I remember us having to leave really abruptly.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand why. And I thought it was just the standard, okay, you've been around other children for long enough now, time to take you back to the house and keep you there for days. So I thought it was just the typical, oh, suddenly we gotta leave thing. But now since he's told me about this, I look back on it and I was like, oh, that's why we had to leave suddenly, because him and one of the other moms had like butted heads about something.
That's so wild.
Yeah. And it got really uncomfortable, and so he noped out.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he told me about that.
See, and I always wondered because like I remember you had to leave early, and I was like sad, and I was like worried, and
I was so sad because that was the first time I'd gotten to see you in literal months.
I know because we never really got to see each other much.
Yeah.
Like it was so like I was just like really sad, and then afterward it was like it was my fault, and like my mom was like
Yeah.
And this was not the first time. Well, there was another time when my dad was at a function and he got into a verbal argument with other fathers because their views were too far right, which is crazy.
Oh, wow,
because
really?
I know. And I just think about it. I was like, dang, my family. Really
Your
wasn't-
family?
I know, in the middle of these like controversial homeschooling. Oh, it's like World War III for homeschoolers. We're arguing just a little bit.
Yeah.
It's wild to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's also a story for another day. Like we keep talking, and I keep like remembering things. But yeah, that birthday party was like that was like pivotal stressor for me because it was like
Yes.
you were like the one friend I really wanted to see too because like I never saw you and I really liked you. I was like, oh, they're so cool. It's fine.
Yeah, and I remember that day that and just to say I literally thought the same thing about you, and I was like I would get to see you probably when things were really bad every 6 months.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
for
or
sure.
more. And then there was a period of time where I didn't see you for years.
Yep.
That sucked. That was hard.
That we would send each other pictures of each other in the mail when
Yes.
we wrote letters. Like that's just how. And I would like have them in my room. Now I feel like I'm gonna cry a little bit, but I would like put them up in my room. I was like so sad because I was like, I miss my friend. They're getting older.
Yes, I remember you would send me like we would send each other our school portraits because up until 6th grade my parents would take me to like Sears or wherever because back when Sears did the photos and they would take me to get my like what would have been my yearbook photo and then around 6th grade they stopped giving a shit and we stopped doing it, but I would send you my picture every year, and I remember I was slightly embarrassed about it because my mom was like, you gotta send your friend a picture, and so I was like, why would Monica want me to send her a picture of myself? But I'm so glad that you like
I literally treasured it, and and I also kind of I don't know how often we did it. I just remember like as a kid, like when we did see each other, like because I don't think you had many birthday parties, if I'm correct. I just remember like
I had 2.
I remember there were like times that came around like your birthday, and I remember wanting to send you gifts in the mail because I was like, oh, like it made me sad because you could give me gifts on my birthday because usually I would have like a party every 2 years or whatever, and I could. And I just was like, oh, I want to, and I remember my mom giving me such a hard fucking time about that. Like, it was such a bother for her to do all that, and I just, like, think about it, and I'm just like, dang, I didn't even see this person very often, and I wanted to send them, like, birthday gifts. Yeah. And you're gonna get mad at me for that? Like, crazy. Right. I bought it with my own allowance money, too. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it was, like, wild. Anyway.
Right. But yeah, you would send me photos too, and I would have them up in my, well, I didn't have a room until I was 13, but we'll get into that another day. Yeah, I didn't have my own room till I was a teenager, but I would keep your photos. Like, I remember at my station at the kitchen table where I would do my schoolwork, I had like this cup of pencils and stuff, and I had your picture sitting there by the pencils for a while.
That's wholesome.
Yeah, I had it like on my wall at the foot of my bed at one point. Yeah.
Or I think I would send you like pictures of Tipsy, my cat. Sometimes.
You would, yes.
Like that would be that. I remember one time, I don't know if you remember this, but I sent a picture. My dad put on these. I don't know why I sent you this picture.
You sent me a picture of him wearing silly glasses.
Yes, like silly like daffodil or whatever. I don't know, sunflower sunglasses.
Yes.
And it just looks so goofy. And I don't know why I thought you'd like that, but
and I remember you wrote on the back of it, "My funny dad."
That was like our own like that was like sending each other TikToks or memes before like.
Yes. And
snail mail memes.
oh my gosh, I'm just thinking of more like topics for episodes we can do, because we have to do an episode about the control over our use of electronics on the internet.
Oh my god, don't get me started.
Because just for context for those listening, we weren't allowed to email each other. We weren't allowed to text each other. We weren't allowed to, have any kind of like electronic communication. No. So what did we do? We wrote letters, which like...
It was the 1960s.
Yes. And it was the only form of communication that we were allowed, or that, if I want to give my parents the benefit of the doubt, they were completely behind in terms of technological advances.
So am I.
Oh, yeah. So...
Dark ages.
My mother doesn't even, to this day, doesn't know how to turn on a computer.
Oh.
She doesn't have a cell phone.
Oh.
Oh. So, with that in mind, give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they didn't know it was an option for me to communicate with you through email or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't buy that. I think that they were like, you should do things how we used to do them, the real way.
Yes,
yeah. That one.
Because my parents had email, but they still didn't let me have it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know my parents are different, but they did eventually, like, later, but, like...
Yeah, I shared an email address with my mother until I was 15.
Yeah.
And she didn't use it because she doesn't know how to use the computer. So it was just me sending emails to my friends under my mother's name. I would send my friends emails, and they would be signed with my mother's name at the end.
I remember that.
Yeah.
That was wild. That was another dark age.
And that was another reason that it was like, everybody probably saw that and was like, what the fuck is happening here?
Probably.
Because I remember I had a couple of friends ask me, why are you using your mother's email? Why is it signed as your mother's name? And I was like, well, I'm not allowed to have my own email address. And they would like get really quiet and like side eye me. And I remember I would go to like summer camps or whatever, because like where the fuck else was I supposed to make friends?
Exactly.
And I would, at the end of camp, I would ask to exchange addresses.
Mm-hmm.
And they would ask me like, why do you want my address? And I was like, to write you letters, of course. And and they would look at me like, why would you write me a letter? And I was like, what do you mean? Because I want to be your friend.
Exactly.
And I didn't realize until later that it was because the medium of writing letters was like not a fucking thing that kids did.
Yeah.
So I was just the one like going around asking for people's addresses out of pocket.
Yep. And I wondered why, like, I mean, we find out later that I'm pretty sure I'm on the spectrum, but like, I wonder why.
Samesies.
Yeah. I wonder why kids like would look at me goofy when I did stuff like this.
Yeah.
Yes, I was probably really autistic and being strange in that way for them, but like also just going up to someone and asking for their mailing address, because I did that too, and I was just like, and they just look at you funny.
Yeah. And then they would never ever write you back.
Right. Just freaking awkward.
Which I
don't know about you, but I would check the mail every day. I was so
excited. Oh yeah. Getting a letter from you was just highlight of my week.
Same.
And I never got around to writing you back as often as you wrote me, because every time I would try and start writing, I would this horrible, crippling self-doubt would come over me, and I would be like, she's gonna think my handwriting is ugly, she's not gonna like what I have to say, and I would like ball it up and throw it out. And so
see, that's so crazy, because I loved your handwriting, and I don't know why, but like when this sounds strange, so don't hate me, but like I would get your letters. I loved your handwriting, and I love the fact that you didn't use like a cursive capital letter. I was so jealous of that. I was like, why do I have to do it with anyway? But like also your letters, they always smelled so good.
Really?
I don't know what it was, but they always smelled good. And I don't mean to be like in a creepy like, I was sniffing the letters. It wasn't like that. It was just like, I don't know, like, you would open the envelope and it would, like, come out as, like, a perfumey, like, fresh smell. And I was like, oh, wow. And I was like, oh, their house must be so cool. And
Lol, no.
I was like, oh, wow. So, like, no, I fucking loved it.
No, it was TLC hoarders up in there. But I'm glad that the letters smelled nice.
They smelled great. I was always like, yay.
But yeah, if you were ever wondering why you like hardly ever heard back from me whenever you were writing to me, that is why.
That makes a lot of sense.
I desperately wanted to reply to your letters, but like every time I would start writing them, well, for one thing, my mother would ask to read them before I sent them.
Oh.
She would ask to read them.
Oh, God.
And so that she could quote unquote proofread them so that they don't think you're an idiot. Sure. And whenever she would do that, it was really just a way of monitoring me, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Obviously. But whenever she would do that, she would tell me, you gotta rewrite this, your handwriting is so bad, they're gonna think you're stupid, and they're gonna think that I don't teach you anything.
Are you serious?
Oh, I'm serious. Like, anytime I had to write something that would be seen by quote-unquote outsiders, people outside of my family, I would have to, like, run it by my mom for her to make sure that it looked okay and that everything was spelled right and everything. Or else people were going to think that she wasn't teaching me right, which she wasn't. But
interesting, sweetheart.
The only thing she cared about was how it reflected on her as a teacher. And how it reflected on homeschoolers in general.
Interesting.
Because this is a whole topic, but did you ever feel as a homeschooler like you were representing the group?
Oh,
like you were at any given moment, you were the face of homeschoolers.
Yeah, because my dad's family, they thought it was kind of weird that we were homeschooling. Like, we were kind of weird anyway. I think, like, they kind of thought we were weird regardless, because we were all still Christian, and they really weren't. But, like, if my sister and I would ever do something slightly misbehaving or whatever, and, like, I wouldn't even say Ari and I were, like, bad kids. It would just be, like, something goofy or dumb. I don't know.
It's like kids do, yeah.
Yeah, and it'd just be like, they already think it's bad that you're homeschooled. Don't give them other reasons to think we're weird. Like, stuff like that. And I'd just be like, maybe that attributes to my social anxiety now, because it was just always like, if you're out in Walmart, and you know how you've seen a Walmart, but it's just like, hey, don't you dare look bad.
Yeah. Like, that mindset of having to constantly be representing homeschoolers and being this poster child and this representative, it really makes you not only like scrutinize yourself scrutinize every minute thing that you do, and which becomes a lifelong habit.
Oh yeah.
It's not fair to a child to have the weight of that on them.
Literally.
Because you know, you go out at 2 p.m. or noon on a Tuesday, and you go to a dentist appointment or whatever, and the dentist asks, why aren't you in school right now? And, you know, your mother has, before leaving the house, already trained you on the spiel that you're supposed to say.
Yes.
About, well, I'm homeschooled, and so I get to do things that other kids don't get to do, and I get to, you know, live my life while everybody else is wasting theirs in school. And they like, I would be coached on what I was supposed to say.
Oh wow, I forgot about that.
Yeah, like, I forget about that all the time. But
which is crazy, because think about it. Like, maybe, I don't know, is it different time? But, like, my parents had me convinced at any moment we could be taken by the government or somebody because we're not in school or something.
Yeah.
Or, like, you know, if we did have a 2 o'clock dentist appointment, I think about it now, I'm like, there are a lot of kids who have 2 o'clock dentist appointments who just get excuses from school to leave.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like
why were they always asking that?
I don't know.
Which is wild, because anyway.
or like you would be out in public at like the grocery store or something,
Yeah.
and somebody would be like, "Aren't you supposed to be in school?" And I'd have to give the whole rundown that my mom had coached me to say, and and if anybody ever asked me, and they always did, they would ask me, "So do you like homeschooling?" And you'd always have to say, "Oh, I love it.
It's great.
It's great. I have freedoms that other kids don't have. Yay!"
Jesus. It's like a little robot.
Yeah. Beep boop.
Boop. And, oh my god.
But yeah, I did Girl Scouts my whole life. I did piano lessons against my will pretty much my whole life. I never wanted to learn the piano. I wanted to learn the guitar, but my mom was like, "No, you're going to learn piano." And why was that? Say it with me, everybody. Because she wanted to do the piano when she was a child. That's also the reason that I had horseback riding lessons, because I didn't really, it wasn't really my passion or my idea. I took horseback riding lessons because that's what my mom wanted to do when she was a kid, and she never got to.
Fucking wild.
And wouldn't you know it, she showed up for that one.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, she turned up for that one. She would she would show her face. Yeah, because it was connected to her somehow, and her wants.
So selfish. Really.
Yeah.
Wow.
And really anything that it was that I joined whenever I was in the first grade, I ended up doing until I was 18.
Which is wild.
I never got to like experience other activities, and if I ever did, they were very short-lived because my mom was like, "I'm not going to entertain phases."
Yeah, did you feel like that? Because I always felt like I would try to do something new and it'd be like, "Oh, you're not like that," and put back in a box.
Yes. And if it wasn't something that I'd already been doing since I was like 6 at that point, like it wasn't taken seriously or entertained. Like, and I will say, doing the exact same things every day of your life, every week of your life, when you're 18, that you were doing when you were 6,
God.
it really makes you feel like you never grew.
Mm-hmm.
Like your life didn't have any milestones.
Oh.
You know?
Anyway.
Yeah. Sorry, everybody. The cat has interrupted. She's rolling around. Say hi to Oatmeal, everybody. Meow. But yeah, that's kind of an overview of how homeschooling was for me, which and once I graduated high school, I was I was a part of the Pennsylvania Homeschoolers Accreditation Agency, and this was like to this day I don't necessarily understand the ins and outs of how this worked.
Yeah.
Because I was kept in the dark about so much of, so much of these things, because, I was deemed like incapable of understanding it, or not being necessary to inform me or whatever.
Right.
But from what I understand, like, it was an organization that I don't know. It was an accreditation agency.
Wait, did they give you a diploma?
Yes.
Because I feel like my mom talked about this.
Yeah, it was an accreditation agency that you had to follow their requirements every year and prove to them that you followed their list of requirements, and then you would get your diploma from them at graduation. And the very first time that I ever met any of the other kids that were in this accreditation agency was whenever I met them at our graduation.
Dear God. How surreal is that?
Crazy. Because they were all, scattered to the wind across the state.
Right. Frick.
And apparently they had already all met each other. I hadn't. Because they had gone to some, homeschoolers prom or something that had happened.
Yo, I heard about that.
Yeah, and, my parents weren't on Facebook or whatever, or wherever it is that they talked amongst each other. So I didn't... I had never met any of them. I didn't know that this had happened. And, yeah, it happened with a very small class of, there was 15 of us.
Damn.
And it was in a church.
Of course it was.
And every single homeschool family that went up and gave their diploma to their kid, because that's how it is at a homeschool graduation ceremony, if you even have one. You go up on stage and the parents hand you the diploma because they are your teachers, technically. So that's how they did it at this ceremony. And every single homeschool family that went up on that stage made sure to outshine their child on their graduation day.
How fucking cute is that?
They made sure to go up there and give some kind of spiel about Jesus, our Lord and Savior, or come to our church service, or the only reason he's made it this far is through the love of Jesus and our hard work. And
there we go. That'll do it.
And they would just always make sure to make it about themselves and give some kind of speech about that related back to themselves, and it never had anything to do with the kid that was graduating.
Oh my God.
So that was my graduation.
Oh.
And then I went to community college for 2 semesters against my will because my parents said that I wouldn't be able to handle anything else. That was a whole thing. I had a total mental breakdown when I realized they weren't going to let me, or they weren't going to let me go to the university I wanted to right after graduating. Or at least, it's not that they didn't let me, it's that they drilled in my head so much that I wouldn't be capable of the work required for the university, that, they tore down my self-esteem enough to make me feel like the only thing I can handle is going part-time to this community college.
Which is really fucked up.
Yeah. Which, I don't say that to downplay anybody that goes to a community college. I went to Harrisburg Area Community College, and to this day, I've graduated from university now with a bachelor's degree, and to this day, the schoolwork that I did at HAC was the hardest schoolwork I've ever done.
God damn it.
So that's not to discredit community colleges, but it's not what I wanted to be doing.
Right.
So it was a full academic year where I was held back from doing what I wanted to be doing.
Which is kind of on par for the way homeschooling is. It just holds you back from what you could be doing.
Yep.
So, it's on brand.
So, yeah. And then after that, I transferred to IUP. But, yeah.
Wow.
That's kind of my overview.
Yeah.
Would you be interested in giving us your overview?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So, our overviews are similar, but let's go back to the part where we were kind of talking about curriculums. curriculum.
Kalelelelele.
See, there you go. That makes me sound stupid. I'm not, but here we are. But yeah, so I remember, I think there's like an important distinction I need to make here because my mom actually is like, I don't know how to put it, like is a registered teacher in Pennsylvania.
Right.
So she wanted to make sure we had like a good education. She wanted to make sure like it was legit. So in that, I guess I am thankful because I think she really tried to ensure that my sister and I had a like on par with a public school system kind of thing. And she did admit, like, when I hit high school, she was like complaining to my dad. She's like, we're gonna have to get them into like a co-op or something because I can't teach biology. And she, like, I guess could, I'm proud of her because she can't acknowledge a lot of her shortcomings, but she could acknowledge that she couldn't teach certain things, and
Right.
she was going to make sure that we got them taught somewhere else, which with that I do admire and I appreciate because it could have been a lot worse. But oh my god, the fucking curriculum she picked though were the hardest. And I sometimes think about like just how hard things were that I, like, for example, Saxon math.
I did Saxon math for several years. Oh my god, don't get me started on Saxon.
Like, it was just so hard. And, like, of course, like, again, like, when we got to the higher maths, she found another program, and I wish I could remember, but it was a lot more interactive, and, like, you plugged in a DVD on the computer.
I think it was the same one that I had.
Yeah, and I forget what it was called, but it was so much better, and they taught you, and, like, it was, like, graded, and it was so much better. Very tech savvy, considering we were homeschoolers, but Anglo-Saxon math, it was so hard for me because I don't think math is my thing. And for me, and as someone who I realize I'm pretty sure has ADHD, it would sometimes take me hours to read a lesson. Like, I would really struggle to focus, and then of course I'd read it and I didn't understand what I was reading because I couldn't pay attention. And I feel like that goes back to just my whole homeschooling experience. I'm trying to read stuff to understand, and it's just not working. Or like people are reading it to me and it's just not working, and there's like a processing piece that I'm missing, and I feel like it's like, and that's why I'm like so bad at testing. And this like continued into college. Like, I was just like, I'm sitting in lectures, an hour and a half lecture, why am I not retaining any of this information? I leave a lecture and I can't tell you what I just was there for. Like, I can't tell you, my brain is wandering. And it'd be so hard because then I would go with these math lessons, it was kind of like, you read the chapter, you do the work, my mom will grade it at the end. And I would do it, and like there'd be times like I'd be so frustrated because like half of my like 25 questions were read and they were wrong, and I didn't know what it was, and I keep trying, and then eventually she'd get frustrated and she'd start like yelling, and I'd just be like, I don't know what to do. But it was kind of like you said, like the cutting corners, you just kind of somehow you put it under your belt, you fucking push through it, and you went on to the next lesson because no child left behind. We weren't getting left behind. We weren't going to be held back in math. Like,
and that's the only reason that I got as far as I did in math and graduated high school was because I cheated in math the entire way through. And never once did anything sink in for me. Like, it didn't sink in. I didn't learn it. And at that point, like, I had to advance through the school year. I had to keep up with my work. So what did I feel pressured to do? Well, I'm lost and I have to keep up, so I don't have any other option. I have to read the answer key. And I have to copy the work and make it look like it was mine. And I have to be strategic with, like, I'm gonna make sure that I get at least one wrong to make it look legit. Did you ever do that shit?
Yeah, I did, because I think, like, especially because then my mom got smart and was like, you need to show your work. So, like, But then even when I showed my work, I feel like a lot of times, like, I didn't even understand necessarily what I was doing. Like, I could replicate it because I think, like, in a way, like, I'm blessed with, like, a pattern recognition or something. Like, I could, like, see it, like, oh, this is similar to that. So if I just move the numbers the way it was, this example in the book is, and move it just like that, like, I see it's the same problem, like, I can come to some conclusion,
Yes.
like, kind of thing. And it's just, like, wild because it's, like, I don't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
But it worked. It worked. And that's what was crazy. Because, like, I would do that and it'd be great. And my mom would be like, oh, yeah, you understand this. And, like, internally, I'm like, I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing.
Right. Right.
But that was just, like, math. Because then, oh my god, she used this thing called rod and staff. She found this thing called rod and staff. And it's like a Mennonite company. And that was English.
Oh,
and
no.
Oh my god, was that hellish. Was it good? Yes. Do I know how to diagram a sentence? I still probably could diagram a sentence. But, like...
Interesting, because I can't diagram a sentence for shit.
Well, it's crazy, because, like, what does that really help you with? I guess it kind of helps, but, like, if you're a visual learner, I can understand. But, like, oh my god, and it's just, like, she would get annoyed with my sister and I because we would make fun of the textbooks, because it was just, after a while, like, a lot of the textbooks they would get also were, like, geared towards homeschoolers. So, like... there was like a Becca books, but it was like this, like, a lot of it was like Christian homeschool. So, like, there was religion and everything. And after a certain point, it really started to irritate me because I'd be like reading this rod and staff sentence. It's like diagram this sentence, and it's like, we go to church on Sunday and then we go home and rest because it's God's day or something like that. And I'd be like, oh my god, for the love of everything, could we just have a normal sentence? And it's like that attitude, like, she thought, like, we were, like, my sister and I were, like, heathens or something.
Yeah.
Because it'd be, like, it's not even that I'm a heathen, I'm a kid and I want to talk about, like, My Little Pony or something. Like, could we at least make it fun?
Yeah.
And I remember, like, I think it's, like, my sister and I had more of, like, pull against my mom, so it was like, you and your mom. It was like, yeah. But, like, I was kind of lucky and had, like, a sister, and we would kind of gang up on her and be like, this is boring. And so we made it to a point, like, we convinced her some days we could make up our own sentences and diagram them.
Oh my gosh.
Which was, like, really great for us because, like, we were, like, finally talking about, like, I made sentences about Tipsy, my cat, all the time because I was like, finally, a topic I like.
Yeah.
But what was also frustrating and rough for me was because I had a sister who was 3 years younger than me, guess what my mom liked to do a lot? Teach us at the same fucking level. So then I always grew up feeling like, wow, my sister who is 3 years younger than me is so much smarter than me because why am I not being taught 3 years higher? So then I felt like that built, like, some resentment with my sister when I was younger just because of that. Like, oh, well, you guys do everything. You're in the same grade. You're not in the same grades, but we're going to go to this, like, field trip together. And if it's, like, a high school thing, more for high school, my sister would come. So then I was like, well, great. Fucking great.
Right.
It even got to the point, like, the last 2 years for my sister, like, she had done everything, and my mom was trying to get her dual enrolled in college, and I was, like, irritated, because I was like, well, that could have been me.
Yeah.
And, like, but my sister didn't really plan to, she did some dual enrolled courses, but not a lot. Like, it was, her story is her own, but, like, it just, like, pissed me off, because, like, I feel like I was one of those kids who really wanted to be the best. I tried so hard. And, like, I wanted to be the best at everything and succeed and stuff. And then I was like, I could have had that opportunity. I would have loved that opportunity. And I didn't get that fucking opportunity.
I completely relate to that. Like, do you ever think back to how, like, whenever you were younger, I know that I had this extreme amount of drive and what's the word? I don't know, it doesn't matter, but okay. I had this extreme amount of motivation and I was kind of competitive whenever I was younger, and I wanted to succeed. I had these big ideas, and I kind of mourn the fact that I wasn't placed in an environment where I could reach my potential in those areas that I think that I could have, because I feel like I can kind of pinpoint the age range where that kind of got like I got discouraged so much that I lost that. And it just was replaced with self-doubt and being like, well, I can't do anything anyway, so why try? I'm stupider than everybody else. I'm not as capable as anybody else. So why have those aspirations?
So sad.
So like I completely understand what you're saying about how like you wish you would have had the opportunity to follow through on the ambition that you had.
Yeah, because it's just like, I don't know. I guess the one thing I was proud of, like, I was a year ahead in math and I think a year ahead in science.
Yeah.
That I was proud of that. And I think, like that just made me happy because I just wanted to, again, I wanted to be the best at everything. And then we go, like, I don't know, my mom would be like, oh, everything's not a competition, and then I go back to being, like, prideful. Like, so here's the part, like, to know about me is, like, my parents were super Christian, like, super religious, and my dad was a pastor.
He was?
Yeah.
How did I not know this about your dad?
I feel like I didn't want to share it a lot because it, like, embarrassed me.
Okay.
I don't know.
I did not know that.
I also think maybe I was not sensitive. I was aware of the fact that your family was not religious, and I don't, like, think I was trying to, like, rub it in your face as well.
Okay.
I think I was just like, oh, they're not like that, so I'm not gonna, like, make them think I hate them. Like,
right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
He was more a pastor, like, when I was younger. So I would say sub 10, he was actually, like, a pastor in a church. He's still an ordained pastor, but he does other things now. Because he was a pastor in my younger years, and he worked 2 jobs, and he also built kitchens. So my mom would make a joke like, oh, your dad's like Jesus because Jesus was a woodworker. And
I remember your mom saying that whenever I was a kid.
Yes, and I was just like, ha ha ha. But, like, I feel like when I was in a church like that, and it's weird, it's really weird because I feel like sub 10, I had probably not the best social life I ever had, but it was a lot different than past that. Actually, I don't even think it was sub 10. I think it was more like sub 8. I lied. Sub 8, yeah. Because after that, he quit pastoring that church. There was, like, a big blowout that I didn't understand, and we stopped going to church altogether. But my dad still had church services. Like, we would watch, like, a church service or whatever on Sundays. Like we were not away from church. We just didn't go to one. So there went, like, a social piece. And then I feel like my parents just became, I don't know, I won't say more strict, but just more, like, I don't know. There was less of a public eye of, like, oh, well, because my sister and I, we were the pastor's kids, but we were also homeschooled. So, like, I felt like I could do no fucking wrong. I feel like, and it was like, it got to be the point where my parents were like, we can spank you before church and after church if you keep this shit up. Like, that was always the threat. And my parents also had, like, parenting books. I don't know if yours have that, but, like, really, and it was, like, culty books. I need to Google this because there was this one in particular, like, to train up a child.
I was just gonna ask you, was it To Train Up a Child?
By Michael Pearl.
That is the abuse handbook.
Yep. Well, yep. It's funny because I've also, like, watched. There's, like, this podcast on YouTube also, like, Cults to Consciousness, and they make reference to that book a lot, and I, like, sometimes think, I'm like, should I go on there and speak about it? Because my parents had that book. Now, did they put me on the blanket and entice me off of it and slap me? No. But my dad, because my mom, like, wanted a paddle to spank us at any opportunity.
Oh my God.
My dad, because he was a woodworker, he made one for each level of the house. So there was one
What?
always within reach, and it was always, like, visible. It was, like, visible so that we would always see it, and so, like, you could have a visual reminder that if you misbehave, like, that's what you're gonna get. And this is, like, tough because, again, we're kids.
That makes me ill.
It's very, and, like, the fact that makes me ill the most about it is the sick enjoyment that my mom would get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that's hard, though, is because, like, we were trapped with her all fucking day long because my dad goes to work and we're just there with her all day long. So if she just gets in a fit of rage and we're, like, pissing her off, like, she spanks us. Like, it's so disgusting. And then sometimes she'd just be like, well, your dad will also spank you when he gets home. So it would be like, it was just spankings on spankings. It was just all the fucking time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and I feel like, you know, like, oh, you're not doing your homework? Spanking. Like, I remember, like, I would, like, we would get in trouble all the time for spilling stuff. And it was, like, weird because my mom is, like, I could go on a tangent. She's a weird control freak. But, like, I think she has OCD. So, like, if things weren't clean, perfect all the time, she'd go in a fit of rage. And not to say that OCD is bad or anything, because I think she has a lot of other deeper issues. But it was, like
it was unaddressed.
Right, and we couldn't be kids. Like, we literally... I remember spilling water in the kitchen and her flipping off the handle when literally you just wipe it off. And I remember...
It's just a mistake.
Yeah. And it's so weird because, like, after I moved out, and it was, like, I don't know, like, a year after I lived there, and I came back, and I spilled water on the floor, and I was just tensing up, waiting for her to start screaming, and it was so weird because she's like, oh, it's okay. It's just water. Why are you sorry? And I was like, what the actual... fuck?
Yeah, where was this energy when I was a child? Right.
Right, like, I'm 5, or, like, my favorite thing with her, I would get up in the morning, because I was that driven child, you know, I wanted to get up. I would get up at a certain point in my school career. I started setting alarms for myself at, like, 6 a.m., and I'd, like, get up and do my schoolwork, but Laura liked to have her Bible time in the kitchen, and her Bible time could last, like, 2 to 4 hours. You know, it was just a long, arduous amount of time. Her just hunched over a Bible, writing stuff down, and sometimes crying. And if she started crying, like, my sister and I knew not to get near her because she was gonna be a bitch. But regardless, she didn't want. It's so crazy because she doesn't want you in the kitchen while she was doing her Bible stuff. So essentially, my sister and I couldn't eat until she was done with this, because if we went to get food for ourselves, she would get upset that we were making too much noise. So, like, I'd get up around 6 and I'd try to, like, eat something, I guess, kind of usually, like, I'd go and get myself a snack before she would start her Bible time, because that could be, like, anywhere. Like, sometimes she wouldn't get done till, like, 11.
Why did it have to be the kitchen?
I know, because I think it was part of her whole, like,
controlling the scenario.
Yeah, and, like, she'd sometimes start and it'd be, like, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Like, and that's a long time for a kid not to eat. Or, like, even, like, the basements downstairs, and we had, like, a lot of craft supplies, like, stuff downstairs. So sometimes, like, we'd go up and down, like, we'd go through the kitchen to go downstairs, and she got upset if we did that too many times. Just if we were in the kitchen too many times, like, she got mad. And, you know, to the point then, like, okay, we're having breakfast at, like, 11:30.
Right.
Well, because that's another thing. She had a whole ritual after her Bible time. Then she would go to the bathroom and she'd be in there for, like, an hour doing God knows what. So, like, we might not eat breakfast till, like, 12. And then, you know, lunch would be around 4. And then my dad's getting home at, like, 5. And he's hungry and he wants dinner. And my mom is mad because we just ate lunch. But, like, whose fault is that? My father's literally been up since 3 in the morning. And he wants dinner when he's coming home. Like, not that he was trying to be like, oh, my wife needs to cook and everything. But she just was like, ow, it's too early. And we would eat at, like, 6:37. Because she was also being a petty bitch. So he couldn't even eat. Like...
Yeah.
It was, honestly, it's just absolute insanity. And then I think she also did, like, the extensive Bible times, because then, like, my sister and I really like to try to get our work done early in the day. At least me, particularly. Like, I wanted to get it over with so I could play. I wanted to play in the afternoon. So it was so hard when, like, all the other kids are coming home from school, and we lived near a school. So we would see, like, around 2:45, 3:30, kids would be walking home from school, and here we are still doing schoolwork, and it just irritated me, because I was like, well, I wanted to do this earlier. I was up at 6. I did all on my part, and we're still here, and I just want to play. Because my mom also had a really weird thing about playing when we could be doing schoolwork. Like, before school was over, you know? School had to be over for you to play, But also, if you're not going to teach us and you're doing God knows what, and we've done all our homework, and I would be weeks ahead sometimes.
Yep.
And I'd just be like, because I didn't have anything else to do. Like, what else do I do but to get ahead? But if I got ahead, then you're not going to learn anything, because all you do is get ahead. But, like, what do you want me to do? Because you don't want me to play. Which I think is the reason why I start to read books a lot, because
yes,
I could read, and that was fun for me, but it was also, like, educational.
Yeah, it was like it was like this sweet spot of an activity where you wouldn't be chastised for it, but it was also escapism.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, and Library Day on Wednesday was my favorite. I would request so many fucking books, and I would read them all by the time. Like, I was such an avid reader. It's just crazy, because I can barely read now. But, like, that's what I did. Yeah. I would read and read and read, and it was like, I don't know about you, but
reading was all I did.
Like, especially when I got older, because, like, she would always get upset when we had toys out, and just in general, like, it being messy, and just a whole thing. And then I also, like, it was, like, a thing, my mom was such a control freak that if she was working, everyone else in the house had to be working. Therefore, if she comes upstairs from doing laundry, which she, for one, doesn't want to teach us how to do our own laundry, it's like, again, it's like a weird control thing. Like, you can't do the laundry, any part of it, except fold it, and you gotta wait for me to come up and fold it. But god damn it, when I'm coming up the stairs for you to fold laundry, you better fucking come in right this minute, and if I see you playing, I'm gonna yell at you. Like,
yeah.
And we wonder why I'm an anxiety-ridden adult. But so, like, with that, between that and just, like, the homeschooling part, it's like I could never escape my mom. That fucking train up a child book, so we had to be, like, good all the time. And then, like, we had, like, a fucking soul train. I never told you about this, because this was fucking embarrassing. And this is, like, something wild, because my parents had, at least my mom in particular, I should say, I think had a sick enjoyment creating this, because she knew it'd be, like, kind of miserable for us. But essentially it was, she took, like, not cardboard paper, but what was it, like, cardstock paper? It was, like, colorful.
Yeah.
I forget what that's called. But, like, taped it out, like, around, and then cut out, like, train tracks, right? So it'd be, like, and imagine, like, you hang this, like, it was on our piano, so, like, stretched on top of the piano. So, and then she made, like, different color trains, and each train had a Bible verse on it, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but I think it was like, I don't know, the red one was like, actually I don't know if it was colors that were bad. I think it was just different colors, different Bible verses that might have been like in the moment, right? So say like we lied, that there was one with like lying on it, like a Bible verse that, so if you're the further back at the start on the soul train tracks that you were, that was like the more trouble you were in. If you're all the way at the front, you're doing really well. You might get a prize later, perhaps.
What a weirdly creative way of traumatizing a child.
Right? And I just remember there were like times when like I'd be so sad, like after I got spanked, probably twice, I'd be like bawling up a storm, and I'd be watching my train go back as like the different applicable Bible verse was up there.
That I can imagine that really makes you view yourself and your actions in a really harmful way, because it makes you, it puts you under the impression that every time you make a mistake in life, you're setting yourself back. Whenever that's not what mistakes that's not what mistakes are. Mistakes are advancement towards improvement, in my opinion.
Which I agree with, but it's crazy because, like, mistakes were not considered mistakes. It was, you were being bad. You were sinning. You were of the devil, and you're gonna go to hell. Like, you're not being a Christian. Are you? And then my favorite was when my mom, like, are you even a Christian? So I think that, like...
She would say that?
Oh, yeah. But you're going to hell, aren't you? And I'd be like, oh, and then because me being like the autistic, OCD-ridden child that I was, then I would really question myself. Am I going to hell? And I think that's where it came out, the whole, like, I gotta recite the Lord's Prayer, like, 8 times, and I gotta say it just right, because maybe I am going to hell. Or my favorite was, I constantly question myself. Am I lying? Like, if someone asked me if I liked this food, I was like, yeah, I like it. But then I would sit there and think about it. I'm like, wait, do I like it? Oh my God, what if I don't really like it that much? I think I just lied. Like, and it would just send
I would do that same exact thing. I did that same thing with food. I was like, what it, like, I distrusted my own judgment
Yes.
to such a degree that I would question if I even liked the food I was tasting.
Yes.
Like,
Same.
what if I'm wrong about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's because we were, like, gaslit as kids. Cool, because that's another thing, like, I heard a lot as a kid. Like, I'd be like, ow, that hurts. Which I'm finding out is, like, a really autistic thing. Like, you express how something makes you feel and people around you tell you, like, no, that's not it. And I just got that a lot as a kid. Like, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's all in your head. Or my favorite, like, at night, I couldn't fall asleep. I struggled for the longest time to go to sleep at night. And I just got told to recite certain Bible verses about worrying not. And how
God.
I need to just stop worrying and give it to God. And, you're just not being a good Christian enough. You need to pray harder. And, like, I don't know. It's like, I'm 8.
All of your problems that you don't have any control over are being blamed on you, a child.
Like, I'd be 6, 8. Like,
that's
little.
A terrible thing to say to anybody, let alone an 8-year-old.
Like, and I was so little. Well, and this is the thing, honestly, is younger than 8. And I'd be like 4 because I remember, like, yeah, I was 4 because we just moved into the place that my parents live at now still. And my sister was, like, recently born. And I just remember being in a new place and I didn't like it because we hadn't painted the walls yet. And they were, like, really dark brown. They had, like, black patches. Like, it was, I don't know what it was, like marks in the wood. But, like, at night, it would just be kind of scary. Like, they would look like faces. I'd be having a panic attack and like, and it's just crazy because, like, it's wild because if I went to a public school or any other school setting outside of the home, I could at least leave that environment for like 8 hours a day. But this is like my everyday. There was really no leaving.
Yeah. Except
for like certain social events that were pre-approved. And it's like, God forbid we hang out with those public schoolers. Those public schoolers are heathens. Like,
see, that's interesting that we had the same experience there where public schoolers were demonized and othered, and we were told we were somehow more righteous than them. But I had that minus the religion aspect. I was just told that they were bad, and I was good.
Which is crazy because, like, how are they so bad? Like, and I remember, like, I don't know about
They're just, like, tainted somehow.
Right, and, like, I was like, Ari and I were threatened all the time. If you keep this up, we'll send you to public school.
That ruled my life. I was waiting for you to bring that up because that phrase right there ruled my life day in, day out.
It was like...
It was the ultimate punishment.
Yes.
Like, it would be... threatened any little like way that I displeased my mother whenever it came to schoolwork. Like, if I was having trouble with a subject and she thought that I was being difficult whenever I was just a child that didn't understand something and I needed an actual teacher in an actual school setting to teach it to me, whenever I was struggling with a subject, as kids do, she would be like, "It's no good. We're like, if you don't start paying better attention and stop being lazy and actually start caring, I'm gonna send you to public school." And her favorite move was, whenever I was misbehaving or doing whatever, anything she didn't like, she would make sure to lunge towards the landline, and she would grab the phone and start dialing the school.
Fucked up.
And like I'm remembering now, it wasn't even just school related things. Like, I could do anything at all, and she would pick up the phone and start dialing the school. And I realize now she didn't know the school's number off the top of her head. She just was pushing buttons. She just was going boop 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 boop.
That's so fucked though.
Which, like, is besides the point, but isn't it funny, though?
Oh, yeah. Which is, ugh. And now that we're talking about this, I think like some of the so my dad was public schooled and my mom was in a Christian school, but I think some of this anti-public school stuff, at least in my family, was because, again, I think my dad could be autistic, and he had a bad experience in the public school. But
I was just gonna say
bullied.
this about my mom.
Yeah, okay, he was bullied, and I think it's probably because he is on the spectrum, and he's just a little different, and that's fine. My dad is great. Most times, you know, like it's like I think he had really bad experiences, and I think he was afraid, like maybe he saw himself and my sister and I a bit and was like, oh no, like, and I think maybe when he said, like, he would say stuff like, you'll be bullied, and I think he probably, like, my mom was trying to be a scare tactic bitch, like, you know, but with him I think he genuinely did think like my sister and I could be bullied. And I think he could see that we were just a little bit different. Because, like, you know how I was telling you in the car, he'd be the one who's like, yeah, we thought you had autism because you would spin around the room. And my mom is always the one who's like, shush, shush, and, like, shuts him up. So, like, I think he recognized that, like, we were different and we would be picked on.
Yeah.
And he was, like, genuinely like, I don't want that for my kids. Whereas my mom is like, we'll send you and you get picked on and be crying and think it's better here. Ha ha ha.
Yeah. Yeah. That was absolutely a defining factor for my mom's decision, I think. I don't know why my dad went along with it. I think he just did it because my mom was overbearing and said, this is what we're doing now.
Oh, yeah.
Because there were several points in my life where my dad was pushing to send me to school because he said, this isn't good for her. This is you know, she needs to make friends, she needs to develop her social life, and this isn't healthy.
Because your dad would know.
Yeah. And always she would shut it down, start screaming, saying, you know, she'll fail, she'll crash and burn, she'll like, there's no way that she'll catch up now. She's so far behind. And I'm realizing now that I think the majority of what was driving her to homeschooling me and demonizing public school so much was because she had a really bad time in school.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know that that was the case until a couple of years ago, whenever I was talking to my aunt. And my aunt said to me, you know, your mom had a horrible time in school.
Interesting.
And I think that that's the reason that she did this to you.
Oh.
And not in so many words, but she kind of said that. And I never knew that. My mom always made it sound like she had a fantastic time in school.
Yeah.
She had a great time. It was actually my aunts that had the bad time in school.
Oh, well, that's fucking interesting.
Which
there was that hologram.
Yeah. And I'm just in disbelief right now thinking about it. Like, because she decided to base my entire life and my perception of the world and my self-worth off of an experience that she had. Why would she think that it would automatically be the same for me?
Right, because it sounds like it wasn't for your aunts, so
I think that they all did have a bit of a hard time in school.
Okay.
But I wasn't aware that my mom did until pretty recently. And that was a revelation for me because I could never fathom why she did this. What her reasoning was, what drove her to demonize public school so much, to use it as the ultimate punishment for me. And then I realized it was because she had a really bad time. And
yeah, that's wild.
She's just projecting all of that trauma onto my life.
You know, I think our moms did a lot of, like, we could probably have an episode of how our moms projected their trauma onto us because, oh boy, a lot of the things, like, she would accuse me of, I'm like, you know, looking back. But yeah, I guess to also kind of like go back to like her, like, yes, she tried to make sure we had a good education and then put us in co-ops. Um, but I didn't have a high school graduation, and I'm honestly bitter about this because I was also class of 2020 for college, and so I did not get a college graduation.
Right.
So I am graduationless. I would like to get my master's sometime, but I'm like struggling to like do adult life and do that. I'm just like, how would I? But like, so I'm a little bitter. Like, I just think of like a lot of the things that I missed out on being homeschooled, and then just because the way my parents were, particularly my mom, she just insisted that I had to go to a Christian college / university because she just quote didn't trust me.
Mm-hmm.
Which looking back, I don't think I ever really did anything that was beyond what a regular like 16, 17-year-old would do. Like, she thought I was boy crazy and a whore, and I remember like explicitly the one day how she kept calling me a whore because she just thought you were gonna lose your virginity and all these things, which I could go into
projection.
Yeah, which I could go into purity bracelets another day. But like, I then went to a college that I feel like was like, again, it was like Messiah College. It was like niche Christian, and I didn't fit in there, and I never really fit in with co-op homeschoolers. I never really fit in anywhere because I was just weird, and I was just always very different. Like, I had a different style. Like, I had like a more of like an edgy style, and then like I started like discovering my sexuality and like all those things, and I was like, wow, I'm really just not like anyone else around me. And like in college, then I was like, it set me up to be just kind of like an outcast because like, again, I was not like really anyone there. Yes, I found people like me in my niche, but like even there, I feel like those people didn't quite understand me, quite get me, and it set me up for a lifetime of just feeling very lonely.
Yeah.
And I feel like until more recently in my 20s, I feel like it also made me like so desperate to make friends, so desperate to find connections. Like, it's like I just wanted friends because I never really had a lot of them, and I just wanted to be like not popular, but just like liked enough that like people want to be my friends. So I feel like it's made me have bad friends in my life who definitely should not have been my friends.
Yeah, because you were seeking it out so desperately.
But also, like, you know, in a homeschool world, you have maybe if you're lucky, one or two other people your age in like the general vicinity. And I'm thinking of like one girl in particular, like she was my age, and I was like, we have to be friends, like our birthdays are on the same time, like it's so cool, like a friend my age. And like she was not a good person, and it's like at the time, like she was not a good friend, like, you know. And I feel like it made me like tolerate that stuff because it like I felt desperate, like if I excommunicate her, like, and there would be times where like we did fight, and then it was like awkward because then it was just like who are people going to gravitate towards, me or her? And then it was weird because it's like we already have such a small pool of people anyway, like you just left out feeling alone.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's so isolating. And so that kind of just led into my college experience, and that's like my whole childhood. So I feel like I also kind of just defaulted into that because like that's all I ever known.
Yeah.
And it's so weird because now I'm at a point in my life, I don't know if it's because I've like masked so well, I don't know, but I feel like, I don't know, not that people are like obsessed with me, that's not what I'm saying, but I feel like it's easier to make friends now. And like, I don't know if it's like getting older and like taking medication and smoking weed, but like the social anxiety is not nearly as bad. Like I can, like before I couldn't even talk to people in public, I'd be so scared, whereas like now I can at least function, and just I'm just like, wow, like people come up to me and talk to me, and like quite a few do. So like I don't have to keep friends that aren't good friends, like because I could make another one. Is it going to be easy? Maybe not, like compared to the average person, but like, you know. And I've also like gotten to a point in my life where I'm acceptance that I have like a few small, like a group of friends that I really like and I'm like close to. Like I'm accepting of that, and it's so weird because 14-year-old Monaco is like, oh, you only have like 3 or 4 close friends. Like, what the fuck? That's so weird. I need like 10 friends.
Yeah.
And it's so weird. Like, it's just like, I don't know. It's like I'm more at peace with like, okay, people think I'm weird. People don't want to be my friend, right? I also don't want to be pretending to be friends with people because I like am projecting a hologram, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And it's like, I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And what you're saying, that same thing led me to clinging on to connections and friendships in college, for example, that I shouldn't have. And you know, with as the person that I am now, I would never I would never cling to those connections now, but I guess it's because I learned from them.
Right.
So it wasn't all for naught. That's how I did all that growing up in those 7 years. I made those mistakes and those friendships that I shouldn't have, and I learned. But I feel like those are all things that for other people happen so much sooner.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like, I don't know, isn't it kind of like a saying, like, by the time you leave high school, it's like, oh, yeah, these are kind of the kind of people like us that are, like, gonna stick by you more likely or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's, yeah.
Like, yeah, for all those same reasons that you said, I made friends I shouldn't have, or not that I shouldn't have, because I'm grateful that I did now, but that I entertained their ways for too long. You know, I had friends where you couldn't be anything but a yes man to them, or else they would throw a fit.
Yep.
And even if what you were saying to them, you were saying because you cared. Or people that, you know, I maybe got into a relationship with because he made me feel like he would abandon me entirely if I didn't.
Yeah. Oh.
And I was at a point in my life where I was like, I can't go back to how things were when I was homeschooled. I can't go back to being friendless and having no one.
Yep.
So what will I do to keep him around? I'll date him like he wants me to.
Yeah. See, and that's, you know, that's funny you bring that up, because I feel like you're right. Being homeschooled, it's put me in relationships with significant others that I should not have been dating just because I didn't want to be alone. Like, for example, when I was 17, I started working in restaurants. And, you know, now that I'm older, I just understand, like, wow, there are a lot of creepy men who work in restaurants. And there are a lot of creepy men who try to hit on underage girls.
Fucking Kyle the line cook.
Yeah, like, literally. And it's crazy because, again, like, I was 17, I was like, oh my god, I must be so cool. Because how would I know? I don't go to public school. I don't know anything. So these, like, over, like, upper 20s, young 30s people are, like, trying to invite me to, like, parties to drink alcohol with them and smoke cigarettes with them after work and and, like, want to date me and stuff and be my friend. And I'm like, oh my god, I'm so cool. But then, like, anybody, like, there were some, of course, there were, like, public school kids who work there that are my age, and they're like, oh yeah, they're creepy. You know, I just didn't understand it.
Yeah, because, I mean, there's no way that you could have, because you didn't have the context. You didn't have anybody to hold them up against and compare.
Right. And so when my mom found out that, like, I was dating a 25-year-old man when I was 17, she flipped her shit. But instead of, like, flipping her shit and being like, oh, he's an awful person, I mean, she kind of did. But, like, she was more just like, I'm a whore, I'm being provocative, I'm a bad person. But, like, how would I know? Like, I just thought I was cool.
Yeah.
But how would I know what cool is? Because I've never been to school. I've never been socialized around my peers. Like, if I had peers my own age and people my own age I could do fun things with,
yeah,
I would not have felt the need to do that. I would have been like, oh, no. Like, what?
Yeah, what you're saying was a big thing for me all throughout growing up, was not having the context of other people to compare myself to and compare my experiences to. So I kind of would find myself in this place where I didn't know what was right or wrong or what was real, because I just lived in my own little world,
literally
isolated from just divorced from everything else,
literally. Fucking Delulu land.
Yeah. And so I didn't have any context for, am I talented at this or that? Am I intelligent? Do I dress weird?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have any of these contexts for, I was into painting in high school. I didn't have any context for whether I was passable at painting as a skill, because I didn't have, other people my age who were in art, around me.
Yeah.
So I had no context for, am I good at this? Am I shit at this? Should I pursue this in college, like I thought about for a while?
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't have the context of to put my experiences up against. And it really, not having that context really made me not know who I was, or what was viable for me to pursue and not to pursue in life, because I was in this echo chamber of my family members telling me everything that I made was gold, or it was a strange combination of being told that I was stupid and couldn't do anything, and also every time I made something, I got into photography or painted, I was told everything I made was amazing.
Yeah.
So, and I had nothing else to compare it to, so I just was like, okay, I guess I'm amazing. And so I was like this weird combination of inferiority complex and superiority complex. Did you experience that at all?
I think that's so funny you bring that up, because I kind of had that, but with grades, I guess. Because, like, I felt like I was bad at everything, because I was like, internally, I'm like, well, this isn't right, I'm fudging this. But I would be getting like A's. Like, I was like, I graduated high school with the 4.0. Now, yes, did we cut corners, but also, like, I don't think I was learning, but could I memorize and recognize patterns and shit and put stuff where it should be and not understand what I was doing? Yes. So I feel like I had, like, homeschooling down to a system that I could win at. And then I get to college, and that was a system that I did not have down and I could not win at. And the first semester of college was so hard for me, because I was getting C's and B's, and as a straight A student, that rocked my fucking world. I was like, what the fuck is wrong with me? I felt so stupid. I mean, not that I thought I was the smartest kid ever, because I didn't, but, like, that just made me feel like, wow, why am I even here? Like, should I even be here? Like, it took me so long, and I think by junior and senior year, and see, oddly enough, like, I went to live on a campus, and that was like, that in and of itself was culture shock to me, because I had to go eat meals with a whole fucking shitload of people. I had to go to classes with a whole shitload of people. I lived with a roommate, and I had a whole shitload of people on my floor.
Just constantly being bombarded with social interaction is a shock.
Yeah, and so I did not thrive between that, and, like, I didn't know how to handle, like, all my friends would go do something at 3 a.m, but I was like, I should be studying.
Yeah.
But, like, no one wanted to study, so I was like, how do people have friends and not study? Like, it was so hard.
Right. Being in college was the first time that I was ever faced with, how do I balance having a social life with doing, completing my responsibilities? And because I'd never had a social life before in my life, so I was like, this is a brand new thing for me. I've never had a friend group, and it's like, I was like, I want to soak up every moment of this that I can, because I feel like it's not, I felt like I was going to lose it at any minute.
I think that's so wild, because for me, I think I was, like, accepted. I was like, I can do one of two things. I can either have a social life, or I can try to get good grades. And I was like, I can't do both, so I chose I'll get good grades. And I feel like that's why it also made me more of, like, a social outcast, because I was like, I think it's, like, again, like the ADHD, I cannot do study groups. I can't do that. People, and, like, there goes,
I will get nothing done.
Right, and I can't do it. So I have to, like, isolate myself away and study. And so, like, after the first semester, I moved off campus. I was essentially, like, a homeschooled college student. I commuted.
Yeah.
And because I was like, I I can't do this. And it wasn't until like junior year when I finally, I think, started hacking the college system and I started to be able to get A's.
Yeah.
I didn't get all A's. I somehow graduated like cum laude or something, which is honestly amazing.
Yeah, so did I.
Yeah, like considering like the
I
fucking...
had like a 3.34 or something.
Yeah, like something like that. And I was like, I don't know how I did that. I really don't, because it was so hard for me. And I feel like homeschooling did not set me up for success. Like, was me being an avid reader and a good writer, like did I get the pickup on that? Yes. But if it were not for those skills, like and I think I could have done that as well, like in a public school system. Like, I don't think I needed homeschooling necessarily to do that. I think like if I was in a public school, I would have been much better equipped to handle college. And I don't think it would have been so hard for me. Like, it was so hard. And so then that's when I started like doing drugs and like trying to party, because I was like, well, I could have fun on the weekends, but what do kids do on the weekends to have fun? They do stuff like that. So then it was like, yeah, it was just a whole thing. It was just like unreal and frustrating, and again, like not being set up for success in life. And I still feel like even now I'm suffering the ramifications, whereas like I still don't really know how to have a social life, but also like work.
Same.
Like, it's hard. It is so hard for me because, like, yeah, we've talked about this. When I come home from work, I just don't want to do anything. There's so many other, like, household things to be done.
You're so burnt out on being on somebody else's clock.
Yes.
That it's like, I don't know what to do with myself now.
Yeah, and it's just, like, I can't even imagine, like, hanging out. Like, oh, well, we're hanging out now, but, like, you know, like, it's just so hard, and I feel, and it makes me angry because I'm, like, besides our distance, right, it just makes me angry because I feel like I'm like, well, here I am back at a point in my life where I don't really see Finn a lot. I don't see a lot of my friends a lot.
Yeah.
It's so weird. It's like I've recreated that as an adult, but I genuinely don't know how to, like, do it all.
Right.
I can't.
I feel like we were very much trained from literally the beginning of our lives to only be able to be productive and work in an isolated environment.
Yep.
And we weren't trained to be able to be productive amongst others, like everybody else was. And so this is a huge impediment in my life, because I am not able to get things done whenever there's other people watching me. And I like to say, I don't like to be micromanaged, but that's not necessarily what it is. I mean, obviously, because of growing up so isolated and not being supervised, like, I can't deal with any form of micromanagement. It's like, get out of my business and let me get this done my way.
Literally.
And that mindset really, it really holds you back in adult life whenever you are looking for a job, because that mindset and that inability to deal with micromanagement and being on somebody else's schedule and being around others while also being productive, like that really holds you back from most jobs and most opportunities, because you know, like I've said to you before, because of that, my inability that I have based in that mindset, I can't do service industry jobs, you know, retail. It makes it impossible for me. Like, there's really only specific jobs that I can do, or at least that I'm telling myself that I can do.
Right, and I feel like goes back to, you know, our parents' voices. Oh, well, for me, it's really my mom's. Like, you know, it's putting us in a box, and here we are with those same voices, and maybe they're not voices in our heads anymore. Sometimes they are for me, but there's also just kind of like in the way I think. I'm like, well, I'm gonna put myself here in a box, and it's like very self-contained. I'm like keeping myself here because I'm like, well, I know this is what I can handle, and then it's like I'm not trying new things because I'm afraid I can't handle it. And I don't know about you, but I also don't like failing. I need to be the best at everything, so I really don't try to do something unless I have like calculated it in my head. I think I could be the best at this.
Yes, I have a really hard time trying anything new, because if I'm not immediately perfect at it, then I'm like,
exactly,
forget it.
Like, why do
Like,
I even fucking try?
Yeah, because if I'm not immediately have it down pat, there's no point.
Literally, I'm just like, nope. Which is like why it's so hard. See, this is why I get so angry with myself. I love art.
Yeah.
I haven't really done a lot of painting in my life because I was just like, I don't know how to do that. Like freestyle painting, I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
And I just like, oh, I don't know how to do that. Well, I better not try. And then just recently, I was doing like one of those fill-in paints. So you just like, it's kind of like coloring page, but like for paint canvas. And I filled it in, and I was like adding like, and I did, and I like after it was done, and I added like depth and texture, like stuff like that, and I was like, wow, actually, Monica, I think you could paint, and if you just like would practice, you'd probably be like pretty good at, like, not artist work, but like I could do it. I'm like good, but it's like weird because here I am, I'm 26, and I've just now kind of come to that conclusion where this whole time I've just been like, nope, you can't paint.
Yeah.
Don't try.
Yeah.
It's so
weird.
It
really makes it hard to pursue hobbies.
Yeah. Yes, because I feel like that's so hard. I can't have a hobby unless I'm good at it, but like you don't have to be good at a hobby.
Yeah, it's for your own enjoyment. It's
Right.
not for a job. It's not for grading. It's not for monetization. Which, in our capitalistic society, we're told that every hobby we pick up, we should find a way to monetize it.
Exactly.
And, I've gotten into knitting, and I keep telling myself, oh, I should sell this stuff. I should do this. I should do that. And I'm like, no, rein it in. Like, I took up knitting, for example, to kind of like work on this part of myself, to work on just giving myself the permission to do things without being perfect at it, without just to give myself that forgiveness, because I have this complex that's like, if I can't do things perfect right off the bat, there's no point, which thanks to my mom for instilling that in me.
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah. Because it goes back to that comic that we read earlier that was like,
I remain untaught.
If I couldn't do everything perfectly right off the bat without instruction, I was stupid. Or verbal berating, or the R word, my mom's favorite, whenever I was a child anyway. But yeah, I completely get that. And started to like go back a little bit further. I had the exact same experience my freshman year at university that you did, because I had never in my life had to learn how to balance social life because I didn't have one with schoolwork. So I ended up being like, well, I've never had this kind of social life before, and I don't want to go back to feeling like how I did whenever I was homeschooled. I would never want to go back again. So I ended up prioritizing my friends. I ended up prioritizing my social life, and my grades ended up suffering for it. I ended up getting I was horrified. I got 2 B's, a C, and a D. I was like,
those aren't homeschool numbers.
No. And it was horrifying because I, even for the most part at community college, I didn't have that social life going on. I didn't have that social aspect. So I was still like doing really well. My work was really solid. I was the best of the best. And so to see that play out when I transferred to university was like, who am I? Because I had never been put in a position where my work was being compared to the work of others and being compared to a standard.
And it was
I'd never had a standard to work to.
Yeah. I was embarrassed. Oh, and don't get me started. Again, maybe we should like do like college experience, because like I could go on for stories like, for example, like my public speaking when I had to do those in class, like that stuff. Like it was so hard for me. But yeah, I'm trying to think. Is there anything else in my backstory that I want to add? I don't think so. I think I talked about like a lot of the stuff that you did.
Okay.
How it was different.
Yeah. So another segment that we want to do on this show is to kind of pivot now. We want to every episode go through the homeschool recovery subreddit and choose, one or two posts that we read together, and then we discuss it and discuss some of the replies that the post gets. So one that I have chosen for today is oh my goodness. Okay, so the one that I've chosen for today is it's titled "How Many Clothes Do You Have?" And it is written by user Silent Adhesive. And it reads, "Genuine question. Since the way people dress really isn't something I ever considered was different for homeschoolers, yet looking back, I dressed like a toddler up until I was 12. I still dress pretty poorly, just some jeans and t-shirts, because most of my shirts are too long. I have 2 pairs of jeans that if I wear every day, I interchange. So 1 pair one day, 1 pair the next day. I have 4 shirts that I do the same with. I've always got like 5 bras, but I have favorites, so I only wear 1. Having such little clothes has been fine since I only ever need to actually get into real clothes to go to the store once or twice a week. However, I think I'm going to be really, really pushing to get into high school this year, and I feel 2 pairs of jeans really isn't hygienic for daily use. I'm definitely curious how common it is for us to have childish clothing, and also just have such little amounts of clothes because we don't need to constantly change since we're stuck inside with nowhere to go or nowhere to be." And reading this post really cropped up a whole like wealth of memories for me, because I used to, well, for one thing, what they said about dressing like a toddler until I was 12 really struck a chord with me, because I didn't think too much of it at all until a few years ago, whenever I was going back and looking at some old pictures of me whenever I was like 13. And I did a double take whenever I looked at the date on that picture, because looking at myself, I could have sworn I was 9. The way that never mind how I held myself and conducted myself. And, just the very, like, you look at that kid's face in that picture and I'm like, oh my goodness, that is a sheltered child. Like,
Yep. Wow.
And never mind all of that, but the way that I was dressed looked like, you remember Minnie Bowden?
Oh, yeah.
And Land's End and
Yep.
all that, the homeschool,
Yep.
the homeschool uniform of Land's End.
We love that.
Well, I was dressed in this ruffly blue skirt that had little birds all over it. And I had a little pink sweater with the one button up at my neck buttoned, a white t-shirt, and I had some bright colored leggings and some Ugg boots on that were purple. And I just remember thinking, I was 13 wearing that outfit?
Yep.
That's not like, it really ties back into, all of the ways that I was held back in terms of maturity and being allowed to progress and change, because
Yep.
like that really struck a chord with me. Like, did you have that same experience?
Yeah, that's so crazy you said that, because honestly, again, as a kid, I thought you always had the coolest outfits.
Really?
Yes, this is so funny, because I was like, oh, no, Finn is the epitome of style. Like, you're so cool.
That's hilarious.
And now, like, there was another friend I had that dressed more like my mom would be like, oh, that's risque. And then I was like, when I got older, I was like, oh, I want to dress like that. But yes, no, I definitely was also kind of like, I would say probably till I was 14, maybe. I would have a lot of the same, like, I dressed really young, like, we got from Land's End, or we went to, like, Target, or like, there was the kids department, right? And as long as I fit in the kids department, that's where I was shopping.
Right.
And it got to the point where then I hit the juniors department. Like, I was too big for the kids, so there was no more. And so I just remember, like, going to the juniors to shop there. But, like, then for me, it was almost like, I don't know if it was because I was, like, getting body shamed by my mom. I think a little bit. But, like, the juniors' clothes were too, quote-unquote, revealing. So then I kind of found myself, my mom taking me to the women's department. So then I felt like I was almost dressed like a fucking child, and then we did like a 180 where suddenly I'm dressing like a fucking mother in her 30s. Like,
yeah.
And like my sister and I would make jokes all the time, and this pissed my mom off, but like we'd be like, oh yeah, that bathing suit like looks like a mom. Oh my god, don't get me started on the fucking bathing suits. My mom wanted me to be in a like bathing suit with like a skirt mid-thigh, like we're talking like one pieces,
like 1920s ass
and
bathing
I'm just
suits.
Like, oh my freaking Christ! And so I feel like in a way, like it was so hard for me because I went from like, oh yeah, you can't wear tank tops. Like I'd be like, it's hot out. Like I don't want to be in a t-shirt all the time. I want to look cute. I want to look trendy.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was till like I could really start driving. And like we discovered thrift stores, but that changed the world for me because then I was like, I was 17, I had my license, so I would take my sister, we would go thrifting, and we found Plato's Closet.
Yeah.
It's a very trendy place, and suddenly, like, that is like when I was like, oh my god, I can be trendy, I can be cool. Like, I used my allowance money, or like the money I had from working like my part-time jobs in school, and I'd go, and we'd go and like buy clothes, and we'd look cute, and I was like, wow, I finally feel like. And I think that was when I really developed my sense of style.
Yeah.
Which is wild that I was like 16, 17 when I developed my sense of fucking style.
Yeah, I definitely, looking back at old photos again recently, I definitely developed my own sense of style finally around 17, late end of 17 and 18. 18 was really where I started to question my gender identity and realized, I'm probably non-binary. And I love looking back at photos from specifically May 2018 because I can pinpoint that as the month where I started to explore, my style and what made me feel comfortable with what I was wearing. When I started dressing more masculine, and I actually, a big thing that played a role in me discovering my sense of style was BTS, actually.
That's so wild.
Because I realized, like, I started getting into BTS, and I realized a lot of things about myself through them, strangely enough. I realized around that time that, I'm not necessarily attracted to these men. I want to be these men.
That's wild, right?
I want to dress like them. I want to look like them. And that like revealed things to me about not only my sexuality but my gender identity. And weirdly enough, they helped me a lot with that around that time.
So cool.
And I say as I'm sitting next to my shelf of my BTS shrine over here. But yeah, that's around the same time as you that I really started to discover that.
So wild.
Because if you'll remember, prior to that, I really dressed like, I had my era where I was dressing like a 30-year-old receptionist.
Yep.
You remember that with I had the sweater dress, and I had, the infinity scarf, and I guess everybody was kind of dressing like that in that era. But I really was, I felt like I was adrift in terms of how to express myself with clothing.
Yeah.
Because again, I had no one to compare myself to, so I just wore whatever shit my mom got me at TJ Maxx.
Yeah, literally.
And 2016 TJ Maxx, you're gonna look like a fucking receptionist.
Oh, that was like a whole. Oh my god, that whole style was a whole other thing.
Yeah, which I guess was sort of trendy around like that time, having like the um business casual look at all times.
Day to night, you know?
Yeah, day to night. Yeah.
Which is so weird because what 16-year-old needs to be day to night? But here we were.
Yeah, yeah.
Trying to be cool.
And it led to me, like, I wasn't on the internet and even whenever I wasn't, I didn't fully understand how to use it to learn about what was in trend or what people were wearing. So I was very much wearing things many years behind, and like not in a cool way, not in a vintage way. It was
outdated,
like outdated trends from 4 years prior, like skinny jeans shoved into UGG boots, like.
Which again, like I think that's funny you bring that up, because as a kid, like this is more when I was like, we still went to church, but there were some like older kids, and they would like give us, like my sister and I, hand-me-downs. So essentially, like the clothes they had outgrown, well, yeah, like this stuff was worn like 5-6 years ago, so it was like, it was out of date enough that I just got weird looks. A lot of weird looks. I was just a weird kid.
And something else that this user points out in their post is that their clothes are kind of ill-fitting. They're kind of too long.
Yep.
This was very much something that troubled me as a kid, because my mother would always buy my clothing many sizes too big, so that I would grow into it. So I would grow into it, yeah. And you know, that's logical, but it gets to a point where, you know, I'm going out of the house for my once a week social activity, and I get to finally be around other children for 2 hours. Whoa, a whole 2 hours.
Yeah.
And everybody is wearing clothes that fit them properly and are trendy, and I'm just not only like feeling so like I feel like a slob, and I feel out of place and so jealous. Like I want to look put together like that, you know?
Yeah.
And not only that, but they would sometimes ask me, why are you wearing that? Why do you look like that? Why do you dress like that all the time? Why are you wearing a red sweatshirt that is 3 sizes too big for you? God. Like, this is a core memory. Wearing my giant bright red Land's End sweatshirt to a Girl Scout meeting with my giant, like, bootcut jeans that were...
The bootcut jeans.
Yeah. And I had, like, a pair of Crocs on.
Fucking...
My blue Crocs.
Oh my god, why do I feel like I've had this same fucking outfit?
Yeah. And I felt like such a slob. I felt like I was so out of touch. I felt like such an outcast, because I had 2 different kids that day ask me, why are you dressed like that? Why are you wearing that? Why are your clothes so big? And this is a core memory, because I remember standing there next to everybody else, looking at my clothes and looking at theirs and thinking, never again. Like, I have to do something about this. And there wasn't anything I could do about it, really.
Right, because it's not like we could
have
any say.
And any time that I would wear something, I remember this, I went to my Girl Scout Christmas party, and I wore something that actually fit me that day. I guess it looked better than my other clothes, I don't know, because I had like 3 kids come up to me and be like, wow, you're actually like dressed nice today. You never do that.
Oh my god, the brutal honesty of
like, what's the occasion? Like, well, the occasion is that this is the one time a week I get to leave the fucking house. That's what.
Yeah,
like,
literally. Oh, that's the other thing. Like, you know, trying to look nice for the one time you leave the house. So, like, yeah, it's we went to soccer, but, like, I felt like I was trying really hard to look cool. Because
I remember going to the grocery store.
Yeah.
Oh,
fucking
put on my best outfit, bitch.
Yeah, like, it's like we're walking the fucking runway. I think it's so funny, though, like, the ill-fitting clothes, because it was so weird. I would get shoes too big, right? So grow into them. And it's weird, because at one point, like, I got shoes that were too big. And it was like I stopped growing, like, my feet anyway. And
And so they
wow,
stayed too big.
and it was like, it was such a weird moment for me. Because yeah, like up until then, it's like, it was also hard because like, I don't know, my body type didn't fit, I guess, a lot of what was out there. I don't know how to explain it, but like my mom would always complain when she was shopping for clothes for my sister and I, because like we were so hard to get stuff for. I don't know. But also like there's the whole like being modest aspect.
Right.
So my clothes were not only just big because we need to save money and order things extra, but also like because we're not trying to like show off our bodies here. So for the longest time I couldn't have leggings or like skinny jeans or anything like that. Or if I did wear them, I had to wear like a long like oversized shirt or dress over top. And I just was like,
yeah.
Or like the fucking Bermuda shorts, but they weren't cool. But they weren't cool. They were that weird plaid.
I had 3 pairs of those bitches, I think. My favorite pair was the pink and orange Bermuda shorts.
With that? Pink and Ari had a pair of those.
Yeah, pink
like,
and orange plaid.
Blue and purple. Yeah. And it just like, it makes me cringe like looking back because I was like, oh my god, like I just look so fucking weird and odd, and I wonder why I got so many fucking weird looks. Like even in the homeschool community, I felt like a weirdo.
Yeah.
Because like there'd be other kids who like, they'd have like long skirts on, like the girls would have like long skirts and like stuff, and you could be like, oh, well they're dressed weirder like that because it's like,
because they're damn near Amish.
Right. Yeah, it's the damn near Amish homeschoolers. But then there's me, who was like, I feel like it was such an awkward place to be in because I wasn't like, there were like some secular homeschool kids who could wear like kind of not whatever they want, but they could dress more like public school like. And there's like me, who's like a weird hybrid in
I have
between.
a certain family in mind.
Yes, and it's like, I'm like a weird hybrid in between, and everyone just like looked at me funny because everyone's like, what are you you trying to accomplish here?
Right.
What are you trying to do?
Oh my gosh, I'm remembering I had a t-shirt that was neon green with puffed sleeves, and I wore that with my bright pink $1 Old Navy flip-flops that were dirty from the summer.
Yeah.
And my pink and orange plaid Bermuda shorts.
Yeah. How is anyone supposed to take us seriously when we show up to a function looking like this?
And I had my giant gap in my teeth, and I had my hair all in a nest everywhere because that's what it just naturally does, and that, or I'd be wearing my Crocs.
I fucking hated
my pink Crocs with my Croc charms.
Jesus, we were so cringe.
God, which like everybody somewhat dressed like that, you know. If you were a 5th or 6th grader in 2011, you were dressing kind of fucked up.
Right, but
I mean, I think this is partially why I was so attached to silly bands.
Yeah.
Because that was one trend that I did know about, and I did feel like I was finally in on something with the other kids. And God, I loved my silly bands. Same. I was one of those kids. I wore them stacked up on both arms. And remember, at the end of a summer day, you'd take those bitches off, and there would be marks, and there'd be sweat. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, core memory unlocked, because this is so funny you say this. I remember I had an atrocious outfit I can think of. It was like a white long sleeve shirt with like sequin silver stars on it, right?
I remember this shirt.
Jesus, this is bad. And then I had these like blue pants, but they were just like a regular blue, I want to say. Like, but they were like, it was so weird because they fit on me. Like, I think they were meant to be like tight, like leggings, but
they were bought too big.
Yeah, so they were like skinny fit, but like
they like that chino
weird
material.
Yeah, so they like hung weird and they looked weird because they should have been tight. But I wore that, and then I had my bright like neon blue Crocs, and that was a fit. And then I had my silly bands. So of course this was a winter fit, so I guess the silly bands didn't jive as much. But like, I was a 13-year-old kid. Like, what the fuck?
Right. Like, the outfits that I was so proud of at the time, I look back and I was like, I am dressed like a 5-year-old, like a literal
Literally.
5-year-old.
Literally.
Um,
Like, remember my white shirt with the pink koala on it, and then
Oh,
those
yeah.
pink leggings with, like, flowers? Back when I could wear leggings.
yeah, I remember.
Which was a weird time. That's weird. It's like, once I hit puberty, my mom was like, you gotta
No
dress
more
like
leggings.
a
Yeah.
fucking Amish person. But yeah, like, that was... But, like, I was, like...
Hide your
10.
modesty.
Yeah. It was such a weird outfit. Like, a 5-year-old would wear it.
Yep.
But it's like, yeah, weird shit like that.
I remember wearing my Mini Bowden graphic t-shirts up until I was 13 with my, like, I think I had, remember my chicken t-shirt?
Yes!
The teal shirt with the striped chicken
I'll
on it.
always remember
I had that in 3 sizes. That's why I wore it for so long, because I had it in 3 sizes.
That's iconic.
I remember you drew a picture of us and mailed it to me. That was, I think you were wearing your navy blue Land's End flowered leggings, and I was wearing my chicken shirt, and that was the picture
Yep.
you drew.
That makes sense.
God, if I can find that, I'm gonna fucking frame it.
I need to go through, I'm pretty sure, unless my mom's been away, I still have, like, letters and stuff that you sent me.
Oh my gosh.
In, like, I had a container for them. Like, whenever I got personalized mail, I would put it in that.
Me
I
too.
want to find it because I feel like that could be an episode.
Absolutely.
In itself.
Just reading each other's letters, oh,
Like,
that
the
would be
goofy
amazing.
Shit we said. Terrifying. Maybe less homeschool related, but also, like, sheltered
Yeah.
child. What the hell?
I viscerally remember the one where the letters where we talked about Taylor Swift.
Yes. Oh my god. That was interesting.
Yeah.
We were interesting.
Another point that the user, the OP put in their post was that feeling like there's no point in having more clothes or more outfits than a few because you never go anywhere or do anything. And so it's like, what's the use? Nobody's gonna see me, so why bother? That plagued me when I was a kid, because I was like, I realized now it was like a weird little identity crisis I was having, because I was like, what is the point in showing, in expressing who I am when nobody can see who I am?
Yeah.
And so I would purposefully, like, never wear any clothes that I liked, except whenever I went somewhere, because I was like, what's the point? You know, nobody can see me, so why put in any effort into my appearance? But this also crosses over into other things. Nobody comes to my house, so why keep my room clean? No, you know, I'm not going to see anybody today. Why shower?
Yeah.
And I don't have anything to look forward to in my life, so why get up in the morning?
Literally.
And it snowballed, really. It snowballed. It started with the clothes.
Oh, wow.
Like this user said, and it snowballed into why get up in the morning? This is because there's no point. There's nowhere to be. There's nothing to do.
Which is crazy, because then, like, I don't know about your mom, but my mom was like, ah! like everything was a big deal, and, like, my room being dirty stressed her out, so of course it had to be clean, and it's just, like, wild, because, you know, you're right, like, there were not people coming over often, and if they did, like, they really were not coming up to my room.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know about you,
Whenever
but
you
it's, like,
took me...
taboo.
Sorry, what were you going to say?
Sorry, no, I was just going to say, like, it was taboo to have my friends in my room. Like, even not, like...
I got that vibe whenever I went to your house.
It was like, you shouldn't be up there alone.
Yeah. I remember we would be up there and your mom would call up and be like, what are you doing up there? Do you remember that?
I think I blocked that part.
Okay. Because I remember your mom being like, or at least coming upstairs and being like, what's going on? What's the haps or whatever, you know? She didn't say that, but yeah, like, I very much got that vibe whenever I went over to your house, that it was like kind of taboo to even go upstairs or anything.
Right, it was weird. It was like, we can't, and like,
Weird energy.
God forbid we shut the door.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was like, it was so weird. So it's like, I don't know. I just like, so like, I didn't have people over. So like, again, like, no one was really in my room. I think like when high school hit, I definitely don't think I ever had anyone in my
Mm-hmm.
I snuck my boyfriend in one time, but like that was it. I don't think anyone ever saw my room, so it's just like it looks a mess. But it's again, no one's seeing it. It wasn't like we had TikTok or anything, so it was not like I was making videos or filming or doing anything fun. So it's like you're the only one who's bothered, Mom. You're the only fucking one.
I remember whenever I would go to your house, like, I think I can count on one hand the amount of times I went to your house growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But,
for sure.
And I can remember each one vividly.
That's...
Because they were so important to me, those times. And I remember whenever you would take me to your room, it was like, I'm in the inner sanctum. Like, this is special. You know?
This is where it all happens. All the thoughts. And it's just like, I don't know. It's weird because, like, my room just felt... my room never felt like my safe haven. Mm-hmm. It always felt like I was like, oh, I really shouldn't be in here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even, like, when friends weren't over, which is probably something else to unpack. But, like, it's just like... So, yeah, like, when we were up there, and, like, I remember, I think... I took a picture of you, I think. You were in, like, a green long-sleeve shirt, I think. But you had, like, a creature. It was, like, a pinkish-purple guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, white eyes. I don't remember. Like, sewn on white eyes. They weren't hard or anything. It was, like, material. I, like, took a picture of you holding it.
Was it an ugly doll?
Yes!
I think I brought an ugly doll to your house one time.
Yes!
Yeah.
And I took a picture of you because I was like, what the heck is this shit? Like, and I was just like, I don't know. And I just remember that. Like, it was just such a core memory. And I remember my mom, like, thinking the ugly doll was weird.
Yes, I remember doing various things around your mom whenever I was a kid, and her looking at whatever, like, craft I'd made or whatever and being like, oh, that's interesting, honey.
Yep.
And you remember whenever we went to the library and we made pet rocks one day for, it was an American Girl program day.
Oh, yeah.
Because, for context, our library would have these programs for children that like, the children's librarian would have a themed activity day, or for, like, a couple hours, where you would take your American Girl dolls with you, and you would have a different themed day around a different American Girl doll. Mm-hmm. And this was the day where it was themed around Julie Albright, the 1970s doll. And our activity was we made pet rocks.
That's right.
Because I guess pet rocks were big in the 70s. Yes. And you guys painted yours like pink and blue cats, I think. And I made mine like an alien that had like 6 legs. Yeah. And I had googly eyes, and I had orange spots, and I had like 6 pom-poms for legs. Mm-hmm. And your mom looked at it with horror. Absolute horror. She was like, oh, my, that's interesting.
I'm fucking dead.
Are you going to show that to your dad, honey? Like she thought he would have something to say about it, and he was like, "Oh, that's cool." Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my mom was not like mortified of you because she likes you. Oddly enough,
she wouldn't anymore if she knew anything about me.
No, but like it was like, I forget what she said. She was always like, oh, there's such free-spirited. That's what it was. Oh, they're just so free-spirited.
That's one word for it. That's definitely a term for what I had going on.
Yeah, they're so cool. I just fed in, and like, you know, my mom, who knows, it could have been derogatory. I don't know. I don't want to think so, but like in my mind, I'm like, yeah, they're so cool. So it's like, but also like, yeah, you're free-spirited. Oh yeah, they're free thinkers over there. That's what my mom would say. They're free thinkers over there in that house. And I'd be like, yeah, free thinkers over. I don't know. It was just fucking wild.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But.
So I'm thinking maybe the next time we do this, we should talk about how socializing played into our experience, which we've already talked about that a lot today, but I want to focus on it.
Yes.
Next time.
Deep dive.
Yeah, and we didn't really get into today how we met and how long we've been friends, but
we should do that next time as well.
Yeah, but for context, we've been friends since I was 6 and Monica was 9.
I think I said 9 earlier, and I was bad. It's actually 8.
8. Okay.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
I can't math. Ha!
But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, we have wanted to do this for so long.
We really
and
have.
Yeah, if you have listened to the end, you're a real one.
Yeah, you're a champ.
You're a champ. Thank you so much. And this has been Homeschool Hell. I'm your host, Finn.
And I am Monica.
Woo! Thanks, guys.